Next, again, considering the time, we are quickly moving ahead with the sessions, and now Lahiru Subasinghe will be starting his session. Lahiru, over to you. Will be start sharing my
Right.
screen. Sorry, we'll be
Thank you,
sharing the
Sharma.
slide in the screen here.
Yeah, thank you. And Dhanusha, thank you so much for taking that, the technical glitches,
No problem.
All right. Yeah, so Sharma, if you can go to the first slide, we can start from there.
Yeah, we are opening the slides, Lahiru. 1 second.
Okay, so until then, so guys, today I'm mainly want to discuss about some of the generic patterns and some of the best practices that we have used when we are implementing applications and stuff for the last couple of years. So just wanted to share these experiences and best practices with you all so that you might get something out of that. So when you are building application, you could be part of product company or maybe a professional services company. So these patterns and techniques can be used when you implement your applications moving forward. So just wanted to share some glimpse of the experience with you guys. So that is the main purpose of it. And I once again, really thank you for the organizing committee and the Yarl Dreamin Ohana for inviting me to present it, to giving back to my own country. So Sharma, if you go to the next slide.
Lahiru, 1 second, Lahiru. One technical issue.
Okay, so yeah, you can. So until then, my name is Lahiru Subasinghe. So I'm currently working as a program architect in Virtusa, USA. And I have almost about a decade of experience in Salesforce. I was accidental developer back then and moved to the Salesforce just like most of our folks. And I was someone like just like you, was waiting on a kind of just like you in couple of almost a decade ago, try to understand the Salesforce and how it works and everything. So the journey has been really amazing so far throughout this year. So right now, thanks to Salesforce, if I'm a professional figure, I am right now, it's thanks to Salesforce as well. So with that, about like designing robust frameworks with reusable components. Sarma, I hope we can proceed.
Yeah, we can proceed, Lahiru. We are good to go.
Okay, let's go to the third slide about the agenda. I just wanted to keep it simple because given the time constraints as well. So I will share with you what is component reusability and why that is important, and what are the major concerns that you have to consider when you are implementing component reusability, and how you're supposed to do that. What are the best practices that you can follow when you're implementing reusable components, and which areas that you can use to implement the reusability. And I would, if the time permits, I can quickly go through one of the example implementation that we have done using component reusability. So that would like to share with you. With that, we can go to the next slide. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah. So first of all, what is the component usability within the application? This is just generic topic that we have to use not only in the Salesforce applications, but also any applications within software development lifecycle. In a nutshell, what it does is like when you are developing a software application, it consists of small chunks of assets, right? So if you are developing an asset or maybe a code or maybe a function, it could be a JavaScript function, it could be Apex code, it can be a LWC component or a component, or else I know there are some QAs there and SDETs as well. So if you have any test suites, so if you can implement a chunk of code that can be reused in your application considering the future implementations, that is where the component reusability comes in a picture. So there are some massive advantages when you do such things, because definitely it will be decrease the time. And when you are decreasing the time, that means like it will reduce the cost and your effort as well, increase the quality, because you have already implemented a chunk of code that is already tested and already in the production, and customers are using it right now. And you know the fact that, okay, you are pretty much confident on the chunk of code that you have built already, so that you can straight away use that on any of the applications. So again, as I mentioned, you can be part of the product company, or maybe you're providing professional services. So just assume you're part of product company. So you have a product and you keep getting enhancements. So what you can do is you can reuse whatever you have built as part of early application, and then it can be easily used on the future enhancements as well. At the same time, if you're part of professional company, that means like you have to work with multiple clients. But if you have built something that can, for example, say a chunk of framework built on, let's say, a Lightning Web Component, it can be easily reused on the customer, any other the client implementations as well. So again, less bugs, because again, I mean, it goes to the same factor, right? So there's application that you have already built, and also it is already production and you have properly tested, so that the burden of getting the bugs or maybe the issues on the production will be lesser and lesser. The performances, again, it works, how it works, so that you can straight away use it on the application. The productivity, and also the one major thing that I just want to highlight is like everything is related to the cost that will be involved, right? So if upfront investment has to be there for sure, because you have to do proper analysis before you implement a proper kind of a framework to implement a reusable component. So upfront investment has to be there, but once you do that initial investment, so that you can use that investment and the chunk of code to reused again and again, so that in a long run, it will give a massive advantage in terms of the saving cost as well, for any of the application types. So data model, so you have to consider the data model, and it has to be kind of a portable data model has to be used. In terms of like it will be applicable for the when you are building a reusable one for the model. So those are some kind of the reasons and advantages that you have to consider. You have to use reusable components, but at the same time, there are some couple of things that you have to aware of, and I would like to go to the next slide. So I will describe them as do's and don'ts. If we can go to so there are a couple of things that you have to consider. So we have to consider the modularity of the application. It's a buzzword right now, because every single application, it's kind of built on the concept of the modularity, right? So it has to be properly identified, the functionality. You must be identified the functionality, and you have to think about, okay, does that make sense to develop as a reusable? So we should not build an application for the sake of kind of building a reusable component again and again. So you have to think a lot, you have to collaborate with your colleagues, and you have to have a proper brainstorming sessions to identify, okay, why and how we can implement a reusable component. For example, you're building an application on top of Service Cloud, and you can see the bigger picture of the application. So for that purpose, you have to connect with your system analyst, business analyst, and your product owner, and identify the bigger picture. So once you identify the bigger picture, you can go back to the drawing boards, and then you can start thinking of, okay, what component, or maybe what Apex code that you can consider to be built as a reused component, right? So that kind of a collaboration, the brainstorming sessions has to be there to properly have some like advantage, to have a proper reusable component that will give you more and more advantages. So Other thing is you have to document everything. So if you decide, okay, this certain part we will be building as a reusable component, so which again says that, okay, there's upfront cost will be involved. So you have to document it properly. So whenever someone kind of try to reuse your reusable component, these documentations will be really effective. And also the last thing, pick the dumbest abstract component. So you have to think of a very granular level and understand. So from where you have to start the building this kind of reusable component. I know there are some lot of stuff I'm discussing here, but when we go to kind of live illustrations, I mean, I came up with a very simple illustration to showcase what you have, what I'm trying to say here. And at the same time, when we consider about the obstacles and the downs, so let's think about an application that is run on top of a Lightning Web Component. So you have to make sure properly use the techniques like data passing techniques like Lightning message services and other pub sub modules. So you have to carefully use that and follow the proper patterns and techniques of it. Otherwise, you will be your data, your everything will be get lost in dark. So let's not include the complex customizations on your reusable component, because it will be reused in future and has to be used on other areas as well. So I have a quick illustrations of it. Sharma, can we go to the next slide?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So this is one of the illustration. I just want to showcase how we can use a certain application. So just think of an website that you have breadcrumb, maybe a side panel or highlight panel, which consists of common structure. So if you can see on the first one, let's consider breadcrumb or maybe a side panel, which contains common information like buttons, common fields, search bars, and many more, right? So side panel has to be there on every single page. So it will be used on application A, let's consider as a site A, and also the application B. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel again and again for this side panel or main component. Because if you implement it as a reusable component, thinking about the overall in the overall future of the applications, you can straight away just plug and play this shared main component on your major applications. At the same time, if you can see, like, shared application B can be part of application C as well, right? So there can be certain scenarios just like that. So you have to think of like even the applications as well, you have to build in such a way, considering the future, if that can be reused in another application, you have to think of implementing as a reusable component as well. And at the same time, there could be some very minor components, like as I mentioned on the highlight panel here, where it could be very minor application, chunk of application, but it can be reused on a couple of main application. Like here, if you can see application in application C, it uses the shared highlight panel, right? So when it comes to application C, it uses shared highlight panel, and also the reusing the shared application B, and the shared application B is reusing shared main component. So you can see the hierarchy of the component reusability here. So this is just one illustration of how you can use, I mean, in terms of the website or maybe a UI application. This is how you can reuse the reusable components within an application. But this should not be applicable for just for the UI aspect of it. This should be applicable for, as I mentioned on the previous slide, this should be applicable on your Apex code and also some other areas. So we can discuss that those areas on the next slide. If Sharma, if you can go to the next slide. Right. So here where we can use the component reusability. So in the previous slide, you saw how we can reuse them on a UI application, right? So we can use in some other areas as well. So if you're using Lightning Web Component, you can build a comprehensive Lightning Web Component framework which runs based on component reusability. I'll go through some of the glimpse of what we have done as part of one of our applications in the next slide, but you can use it on a bit when you're building LWC framework. Error handling framework, you can have toast messages that has to be reused again and again, regardless of whether that is coming from the application or maybe the web service call out. You can use it error handling framework. If you are familiar with user provisioning, you can use in Git handlers, you can use reusable components whenever user logs into the system, or maybe user try to, when you create account for users as well. So there's a massive scenarios that you can reuse a common chunk of code here. The web service framework, this is something that I just wanted to show you as a sample. And I can come to that in the next slide. But at the same time, the UI framework that I mentioned, and also the data mocking. So if you have an application that rely on the web services, you cannot get all information on your lower sandboxes, assuming its production data has compliance issues with you. So in that case, you can build your own the mocking framework, and that certain mocking frameworks can be reused in your multiple applications as well. So this is just a few use cases that you can use the reusability, but the possibilities are endless. You have to connect, as I mentioned. So you have to think through, collaborate, brainstorm, and come up with a plan on that. So with next, I'll quickly go through one of the implementations that we have done using this kind of a concept. It's a web service framework. So Sharma, if you can go to the URL that I sent you. Yeah, if you can stick with this one, that should be fine as well.
I can switch to
so here.
the website as well, Lahiru. Give me a second.
Oh, okay. So until it opens, so we have a in one of our current implementations, we are using Salesforce Service Console, and within Service Console, we have added full LWC components to fetch the data from external services, and we are displaying here. So for each and every component, we are retrieving the data from the external sources. Yeah, thank you. So none of the data is stored in Salesforce. Everything is fetched from external sources. So in that case, if you have a massive number of fields and in your application, and you have to get those information for each and every information from the external services, it's going to be a kind of a very hazardous implementation. So what we have done here is, as you can see, we have within the Salesforce Service Console, we have multiple applications focusing on line of businesses, and it is built on LWC framework. So just one thing about the LWC framework that we have is it's running based on custom metadata. So whenever if you want to build a LWC component within our framework, what you have to do is just a matter of adding a custom metadata record in a JSON format. So you can add the required field, you can add the labels, you can add the data type, you can add the error handling mechanisms, and you can add your own CSS classes as well within a JSON format on the custom metadata. So what framework does is it reads the custom metadata, and based on that, it will develop the Lightning Web Component for you. So that is a massive usage of the reusability. So feel free to connect with me offline. I can help to share you more information about how we build this LWC framework, so that you can kind of benefit from that. But my point is not to showcase the LWC framework, but this web service framework. So now what happens is we have the applications, and within the application we have Lightning Web Component, and it goes through the Lightning Web Component framework, and it accesses Apex layer. So within this Apex layer, what we do is we have all the factory classes, we have all the utility classes, and everything is there on the Apex layer, right? So, and so once it calls the Apex layer, we have two objects that's on our Salesforce application to share us what are the methods, what are the headers, what are the endpoints, what are the types, and what are the error handling mechanisms that we have to use for us to call external source, right? But at the same time, we just want to make sure we have different because in our organizations we have the developer environments, QA environments, pre-prod, regression, and production. So for each and every environments, we have to maintain different endpoints and also the different sandbox names and the stuff. So within the sandbox configs, the object, what we do is we will provide those information, and based on the sandbox that you are in, it will get those information and then identify, okay, what are the endpoint URL, get the endpoint URL, call the external service, get the results back, push it to the LWC framework, and then push it to the applications. So I just want to mention here the middleware layer as well. When you have complex applications, I strongly recommend you to go with the middleware layer, either from Spring Boot, MuleSoft, or anything else. So it has to be built in a reusable component as well, because you might have multiple endpoints, multiple source systems, multiple complex logics. But if you have in this case, I'm gonna take example of Spring Boot. We do have Spring Boot layer as a middleware. So we have built a Spring Boot layer in such a way that can be easily used in other applications as well, other web service callouts as well. So for us, each and every Spring Boot applications, we have maintained a different repository, Git repository. So every time you have to call a different web service, you have to clone it and then use it, right? So that is how we are using. So in this application, I just try to showcase three main areas of using reusable components. The first one is LWC framework, comprehensive framework that you can reuse a small chunk of code to build a massive Lightning Web Component application. Apex layer, get the information from LWC framework, call the correct endpoints using the custom objects. And then a third is the middleware layer. Again, individual repositories that can be cloned when you create additional web service callouts. So all in all, so this is one of the this is currently we are getting a lot of massive advantages of it after implementing this in terms of performances and the stuff. So I encourage you all to whenever you build an application, just think through the future and come up with the proper framework so that you can beneficial, in terms of developer side and as well as from company side, it will be a massive cost saving, and also from the end user's point of view, it will be like they are getting like proper end user experience with the performances. So with that, given the time constraints, I would like to stop from here. But if you have any questions, if you want to clarify anything regarding the best practices or anything else that we have implemented throughout this one, so just feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than available to help you guys out and have a chat with you, because I'm here, if I'm here in a professional figure as I am right now, it is because of the help I was getting from my seniors as well. So I would like to share that back to you as well. So if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out to you, or Sharma, Brenda, Nandu. So these guys, I have been working with them for a longer time now. So you are getting the massive support from them. So feel free to reach out to anyone else, and just build this about HANA more strong. One last thing is, like, there's a reason for us to highlight within our in the industry right now. So you have to keep that momentum going forward. So for that, you have to use the best practices and proper techniques whenever you are implementing the applications. So with that, I thank you very much, everyone. So again, thanks to the organizing committee as well. And I have heard that there are a lot of fun stuff is set up already from the organizing team. So yeah, enjoy the rest of the day. And again, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lahiru. It was really impressive session as always, and it's again glad to hear from you one more time. Once again, thank you from all from the point of view of the whole Jeffna Salesforce developer group point of view, and our organizing committee point of view for staying lead and providing this amazing session to the today's participants. Thanks a lot, Dave.
Awesome.
Good night.
Bye.
So
Actually,
with
morning
that,
now.
but I think you will be able to have some well-deserved sleep. Thanks, Dave.